We need to burn the patriarchy all the way to the ground. This is a full stop imperative, and I'm even going to tell you how it's destroying your home. This video isn't opinion, and it's not a one side versus the other kind of thing. The patriarchy exists, and it's been screwing us for hundreds of years. You may think it's only screwing women, and it is, but it's also keeping all of us down. It's keeping you down. The patriarchy is this idea that power should be centralized in the hands of a few men. And usually they tell you that it's in the name of God, that God wants this patriarchy to control you. And doesn't that just seem like BS to you? We have the power. We have all the power. Why am I talking about this on a spiritual channel? Because the patriarchy has fundamentally impacted your ability to practice spirituality. I'm an Omnist. I believe that all paths have some truth to them, but only when we strip away this human distortion that's been added to our religions and our spiritual philosophies. I've seen it myself growing up in the Southern Baptist Church. I was at church camp one summer, and our church had been picked to lead prayer that day in the open air tabernacle on the church camp. And our preacher had put forward a woman to lead everyone in prayer. And so we got there, and this woman went to go on stage, and they physically blocked her from going on stage and said, "You can't go out there and pray because you're a woman." That's the patriarchy. Think about that. Someone's just coming to pray to express themselves and share with others, and they're prevented from doing that simply because they're a woman. I feel like it's my responsibility to remain curious and ask questions about the structures that are behind religions and find out what they're all about. And that's led me to question who benefits from the dogma associated with organized religion. The patriarchy is the one who benefits. I think we know that. So what exactly is the patriarchy? It's this hierarchical power structure that's built on domination, control, and separation. It's a socio-political system and not a spiritual truth. It's literally just something they made up. It's not anything related to the divine. Patriarchy infiltrated religion so that it can manipulate and dominate and obtain power. It's meant to serve greed. It's nothing to do with the divine. But let's be clear here. It doesn't just subtly manipulate to hold on to power. It completely rewrites things. It changes history to suit its needs. Think about the Gnostics. They were virtually wiped off the face of the planet hundreds of years ago by the Roman Christian Church. And it wasn't just that the people were genocided away. That did happen. Their writings were all destroyed. And even people who wrote about them from other religions and other cultures, all of that information was destroyed. We didn't even know about their foundational text until the Nag Hammadi was found in 1945 in the middle of the desert in the Sinai Peninsula, and it was found by accident. Consider how the language of the church gets you to stay on board and be compliant. Words like obedience, sin, punishment. If you've ever been in church, how often have you been told about sin and the dangers of it and how it's going to lead to all these bad things? This is the patriarchy drilling itself into your mind. There's no real quest for liberation of the self in this type of institution. They're not interested in the truth. They get more concerned with controlling their own town or how you're going to vote. The patriarchy is particularly meant to subvert women. They keep them disempowered and away from any real power structure. And that's not political. It's simple fact that anyone can find out by researching. You can go out there and you can demonstrate this as absolute truth. And even though the patriarchy privileges men, it wounds everyone. It teaches men to dominate and women to submit, but it also teaches us to fear the wholeness and fullness of who we are. At its core, the patriarchy replaces the divine with this human authority. And instead of seeing God within, it tells you to obey something human above you. Speaking of the divine, the universe would love if you would subscribe to our channel by hitting the watermark in the lower right-hand corner. Let's discuss the patriarchy in Christianity and other religions. In Christianity, we see the suppression of the divine feminine. Just look at Mary Magdalene as one of the best examples. She was intentionally recast, and she was said to be a prostitute. It was absolutely not true. It was a made-up lie. And I was literally taught this in Sunday school in the Southern Baptist Church. I was way too young to be hearing about sex workers in the first place. It was completely inappropriate. And I can still replay it in my head because it's so vivid. It's like, why are they telling me this? This is not right. And Mary Magdalene was the first one to witness the resurrection of Jesus Christ. She was a confidant of Jesus himself. She was probably the person that was closest to him on earth. And they called her a whore. They said it because they wanted to control women and they wanted to disempower women. They told us that Eve is this villain that completely subverted mankind. And they did that because they want to control the narrative. They want to control women. Let that roll around in your head and your mind for a minute. It wasn't just the Christian church's suppression of the divine feminine, it was also denying the feminine access to the divine. And that's an important distinction, because if you look at the hierarchical priesthoods and this male-only leadership of the church, it's right there in front of us on display for hundreds of years on how they're keeping women from accessing their own divine faith. In Islam, it's a lot of the same thing, and so I'm not going to repeat everything, but you have this obvious rigid gender roles. You have strict controls over women's expressions and their mobility. Think about what that does to a woman's life, what this patriarchy is doing to them. And that's pretty much true, some of this that I just talked about in Christianity and Islam through all the Abrahamic traditions. This isn't just Christianity and Islam. And so remember that. It's not just those two religions. Hinduism doesn't really get a pass either. There's lots of irony in the fact that they revere goddesses and they venerate them. And at the same time, they perpetuate this oppressive caste system that keeps people down. And it's very much attached to the patriarchy. We know that there is tremendous gender inequality in and around Hinduism on this great scale. And that's not to say there aren't beautiful things about Hinduism and these other religions. I'm not trying to only talk about the bad, but the patriarchy is a whole lot of bad. So we kind of have to focus on it a little bit. Buddhism can also be problematic. It's been male dominated for hundreds of years. You talk about celibate monasticism being used to justify male authority over women practitioners. This has been done for centuries. And despite teachings of non-attachment and compassion, it's about power and control. Maybe we can discuss the cost of what the patriarchy has done to religion and what it's done to us. The damage has been enormous. It's hard to even put into words. The worst is probably the suppression of ourself, that self with a capital S within us. We're talking about the universe, the divine, nature-based consciousness. We've been denied a real connection to source because of the patriarchy. That God of many names that's out there, we've been denied access to it. There's this great repression of sexuality and the shaming of emotions. We're not even allowed to feel certain things. We're told that we can't feel it, that we shouldn't feel it, and if we do, it's a sin, it's wrong. We've been deliberately disconnected from the divine feminine. We've been told in no uncertain terms that God is a man and that God has male energy. And think about what that's done to our relationship with Mother Earth. Mother Earth is this personification of the divine feminine. It's a really beautiful thing. And we've lost our connection with her, and we've forgotten that we are nature. Not that we're in nature, not that we walk through nature. We are nature. We're a part of it. The earth in our home has paid a tremendous price in all of this. There's this disconnect with Mother Earth has led to the destruction of Mother Earth because we don't see her as this living, breathing thing that we're a part of and that's part of us. And there's a lot of psychological and spiritual wounding that have been caused by patriarchy. We're talking about in women and queer people, but even men have been taught to deny their wholeness. We've mistaken obedience for awakening. We've settled on shame instead of looking at the sacred. And we've traded this patriarchal hierarchy for knowing the divine, for knowing ourselves. What have you seen the patriarchy do? And how has it personally impacted you in your own life? I'd love to know what you think and have a conversation about it. So hit me up in the comments. You can reclaim your place in the universe. Separate true spirituality from these distortions caused by the patriarchy. Honor the divine feminine and this whole full spectrum of spiritual expression. Search within yourself for the spirituality that's right here. And organized religion can complement that. You just have to choose wisely. Look for spiritual spaces that are inclusive, communal. They're liberating. They want to celebrate your own unique path. They don't want to tell you exactly how you do it. They're going to be rooted in love and truth. And they're going to be devoted to your wholeness, not making sure that you're devoted to their wholeness. There's a huge difference there. If you felt crushed by religion, trust me, you're not alone. I think a lot of us have been there. You're not broken. The system is. Burning down the patriarchy doesn't have to mean destroying religion. It's about making it what it could have always been, taking that power away from these people that have used it as a means to an end for power and for greed. We can reclaim all of that. We can make it about loving kindness, this thing that we share together, and we lift the whole world up. The conversation doesn't have to end here. Come be part of a community that gets it at keyshar.org. Please like this video if you want us to keep making content just like this. And until next time, I wish you peace on your journey.